Tell the princess to come outside before sunrise, or every family in that bunker loses its chance to go home. Commander Varric's voice rolled through the emergency speakers, calm enough to make the threat worse. Princess Lasara Vey stood beneath the flickering lights of the Varan relay fortress, while nearly 200 civilians waited behind her for an answer she did not have. The fortress had once been a communication station built into a mountain ridge. Tonight, it was the last Varan position within 40 miles of the capital. Beyond its reinforced windows, the city below had gone dark one district at a time. Car forces controlled the roads. The landing fields were gone. Communications worked only when the backup generator decided to cooperate. A little girl named Sela tugged gently at Lasara's sleeve. Her silver-blue face looked almost gray in the emergency lighting. "Princess, is the rescue ship still coming?" Lasara looked down at her. She had spent 29 years learning how royalty was supposed to behave when everyone else was frightened. "Stand straight. Keep your voice steady. Never let them see uncertainty." None of those lessons explained what to tell a child when an army was waiting outside. "Yes," Lasara said. "They're coming." Sela nodded because children still believed promises meant something. Lasara watched her return to her mother, then quietly turned away. "You shouldn't have told her that," Lieutenant Cowran said. He was standing beside the tactical display, staring at a map covered almost entirely in car red. "I know. The evacuation carrier is hours away." "I know." Cowran lowered his voice. "And we don't have hours." Lasara said nothing. Outside, distant lights moved through the valley as Varric's troops tightened the perimeter. He wanted her alive. That was the only reason the fortress was still standing. Surrender the air, save the civilians. It was the kind of bargain tyrants loved because it made decent people feel responsible for whatever happened next. Then the radar console chirped. Once. Twice. The young operator leaned forward. "Lieutenant." Cowran crossed the room. "What is it?" "Multiple contacts. High altitude." Lasara felt every conversation in the command room die at once. Symbols appeared on the display, falling almost vertically toward the ridge. "Fast. Too fast." Cowran's face hardened. "Car strike." "I don't know." The operator swallowed. "They're coming from orbit." Lasara walked to the window. Above the mountains, dozens of burning streaks suddenly appeared against the black sky. For one terrible second, they looked like falling stars. Then she understood what falling stars meant during a siege. "Get everyone away from the upper levels," Cowran ordered. "Move." The civilians began scrambling toward the lower shelter. Lasara stayed at the glass. If Varric had decided to destroy the fortress anyway, she would at least watch the end coming. But something changed. The falling objects slowed. Small bursts of light appeared beneath them. Thrusters. Cowran stared at the tactical screen. "Those aren't weapons." "Then what are they?" Lasara asked. The operator magnified one contact. His expression changed from fear to disbelief. "Drop pods." One struck the valley floor less than half a mile from the fortress, throwing dust into the night. Another landed near the eastern ridge. Then another. Car formations immediately shifted toward them. A pod directly below the fortress opened through the smoke. A man stepped out wearing battered Terran combat armor, rifle held low as he surveyed the valley. Staff Sergeant Cole Mercer looked at thousands of enemy signals surrounding the mountain, then keyed his radio. His voice came through the fortress receiver seconds later, strangely calm. "Ground contact. This is Mercer, Terran orbital infantry. We found the civilians." Lasara stared at the burning sky as more human soldiers descended into a battle everyone else had already decided was lost. The first thing Cole Mercer noticed was that one of his pods was not answering. "Riley, check pod 7. No response. Cole tried again while moving through the dust toward the fortress. "Pod 7, report." Natalie Brooks came over the radio instead. "I found them. Guidance system failed on descent. They are alive, but I have 2 people who are not walking anywhere tonight." Cole stopped for half a second. 45 had jumped from orbit. 43 were still operational. He looked across the valley where car vehicles were already changing direction. "Get them under cover." "Mason, Eastern Ridge. Keep those vehicles interested without letting them know how few of us there are." Corporal Mason Reed answered immediately. "That last part feels important." "Very. Glad we agree." Cole reached the fortress entrance as the heavy door opened just wide enough to admit him. 2 Varan guards aimed unfamiliar energy weapons past his shoulders, clearly expecting an attack to follow him inside. Instead, Natalie appeared through the smoke supporting an injured soldier twice her size in armor. "Little help would be fantastic," she called. The Varans hesitated. Cole pointed. "You too. Help her." Something in his tone translated perfectly. They moved. Princess Lasara was waiting inside the command room when Cole arrived. Up close, she was taller than he expected, silver-blue skin catching the emergency lights. She studied him with equal surprise. Human soldiers had been described to her as physically unimpressive by galactic standards. The man standing before her looked tired, dusty, and entirely ordinary. "Where is your fleet?" she asked. "Above us." "Then why is it not firing?" "Car orbital batteries control the approach corridor." Cole stepped toward the tactical display. "How many civilians?" 183. "Wounded?" 26. "Food?" Lasara blinked. "What?" "Food. Water. Medical supplies. Backup power. I need numbers." She glanced at Cowran, then back at Cole. "You crossed an orbital blockade to ask about our pantry?" "I crossed an orbital blockade because somebody said you needed help." A warning tone sounded. Red contacts began moving toward the eastern ridge. Cole touched his radio. "Mason, I see them. About 30 vehicles, maybe more behind the ridge. Do not get ambitious. You always ruin my hobbies." Lasara stared at Cole. "How many soldiers did Earth send?" Cole did not answer immediately. He counted the green signals appearing across his wrist display. 43 made it down. The room went quiet. Cowran actually laughed once, not because anything was funny, but because the number seemed impossible. "There are more than 6,000 car soldiers in this valley." "I noticed. 43 cannot defeat 6,000. Cole looked at him. "Good thing nobody asked us to." A distant vibration rolled through the floor. The car advance had begun. Cole studied the fortress schematic, then pointed toward the western access corridor. "Where does this lead?" "Maintenance levels," Cowran said. 3 floors below ground. "And this?" "Service elevator." "Maximum load?" "I do not know." Cole nodded toward another section. "These tanks." "Industrial coolant." His attention sharpened. "How, Cole?" Lasara stepped closer. "Sergeant Mercer, what exactly are you doing?" Cole finally looked at her. For the first time she saw something behind the calm expression. Not confidence. Calculation. He was worried, and that somehow frightened her more. "Figuring out what we have." "For what?" Another alarm sounded. Mason's voice broke across the radio. "Cole, company coming up the East Road. They are moving fast." Cole checked his ammunition, then turned toward the door. "Princess, how long until that evacuation carrier gets here?" Lasara hesitated. 6 hours. Cole stared at the map, at 43 green signals surrounded by thousands of red ones. Then he keyed the radio. "All Terran units, new clock." 6 hours. Natalie answered first. "That is a long 6 hours." Cole opened the fortress door as the night outside filled with approaching lights. "Then we better make every minute expensive." The first car vehicles stopped 2 miles from the fortress, and that worried Cole more than if they had kept coming. He watched their lights settle across the valley through a pair of compact binoculars. "They are thinking," he said. Mason Reed crouched beside him behind the eastern barrier. "I was hoping thinking was not their thing." "Everybody thinks. The dangerous ones learn." Cole lowered the binoculars. "Fall back inside." Mason glanced toward the approaching formation. "Without saying hello?" "Especially without saying hello." 10 minutes later, Cole was walking the fortress with Cowran and Lasara while Natalie turned an abandoned communications office into a medical station. Cole ignored the polished command areas and headed straight for the ugly parts of the building. Storage rooms, utility shafts, kitchens, maintenance corridors. He stopped beside an industrial door. "Can this come off the hinges?" Cowran stared at him. "Why would we remove a functioning door?" "Because it weighs about 800 pounds. "That does not answer my question." "It does where I come from." They continued downstairs. Cole pointed toward a bank of silver tanks. "Coolant?" "Yes." "How much?" "Approximately 900 gallons." "Good." Lasara finally stopped walking. "Sergeant, you keep calling everything good." Cole turned. "Would you prefer terrible?" "I would prefer understanding what you are doing." He considered that. "Fair enough. Your people built this place to transmit signals. Mine are going to use it to survive 6 hours." He pointed toward the schematic on Cowran's tablet. "These maintenance tunnels give us movement the car cannot see." Those emergency shutters divide the lower floor into separate sections. The service elevator gives us another route between levels. Your backup generators are independent. Kauren's expression slowly changed. You are planning to defend the interior. I am planning options. You expect them to enter? Eventually. Lasara noticed he had not said if. A communications officer hurried down the stairs. Princess, we have a transmission from the car commander. Varric's image appeared on the nearest wall display. His dark copper features were composed, almost courteous. Princess Lasara, I see your new allies have arrived. 43 humans, according to our sensors. An admirable gesture. Unfortunately, gestures do not change arithmetic. Cole leaned against the wall and listened. Send me the princess, Varric continued. And the civilians may leave before sunrise. Make me take that fortress, and your human guests will have crossed half a solar system for nothing. The transmission ended. Kauren looked at Cole. He knows your number. Yeah. Does that concern you? A little. Mason's voice came through Cole's radio. You are going to want to see this. Cole returned to the command room. The tactical display showed the car forces spreading out instead of charging. Varric was surrounding the fortress carefully, closing roads and positioning vehicles beyond obvious firing lanes. Cole watched for several seconds. He is not rushing. Lasara sounded almost surprised. Varric has conquered 11 colonies. He is arrogant, not incompetent. That is inconvenient. A secure tone sounded from Cole's wrist unit. Terran command. He stepped away from the others and opened the message. The words were short. Priority directive. Extract Princess Lasara. Preserve Terran unit. Fortress and civilian population non-essential if extraction becomes impossible. Cole read it twice. Behind him, Sella was helping her mother hand out cups of water. The little girl noticed him looking and smiled. Cole looked back at the order. 6 hours suddenly felt different. He closed the message without acknowledging it. Natalie had come up beside him unnoticed. Bad news. Cole slipped the wrist unit beneath his sleeve. Depends. On what? Outside, the first car's searchlights swept across the fortress walls. Cole watched them through the window. On whether we are following orders. Cole waited until Natalie had closed the command room door before he showed her the order. She read it once, handed the wrist unit back, and looked through the glass at the civilians crowded along the lower corridor. Command wants the princess. Yes. And everybody else? Cole said nothing. Natalie nodded slowly. That is what I thought. Across the room, Mason was counting ammunition with 2 squad leaders. 43 soldiers had become 41 capable of holding a position, and nobody needed a speech about what those numbers meant. Cole walked over. Status. Mason tapped the last magazine against his palm. Enough if Varric is polite. He will not be. Then I officially dislike him. Cole looked around at his people. Some were checking equipment. One soldier was quietly eating an energy bar because nobody knew when there would be another chance. Another was showing a Terran guard how to operate a Terran radio. They looked like soldiers doing a job, not legends waiting for history to notice them. Listen up, Cole said. The room settled. Command authorized extraction of Princess Lasara and our unit. Nobody reacted until he added, the civilians are not included. Mason stopped counting. Natalie folded her arms. Cole continued. The order makes sense. We have one strategic asset, limited personnel, and no guarantee the carrier reaches us. If we leave now, some of us probably make it out. And them? A young soldier named Tyler Grant asked. Cole looked toward the shelter doors. They stay. Silence. Cole hated this part. Ordering people into danger was easy in training because nobody's mother was waiting for a phone call afterward. Here, every decision had a face. I am staying, he said. That is my decision, not yours. Anyone who follows the extraction order goes with a clear conscience. Mason raised a hand. Quick question. Who is carrying you to the shuttle? A few tired smiles appeared. Cole shook his head. I am serious. So am I. Natalie picked up her medical bag. I already unpacked. One by one, nobody moved toward the exit. Lasara had been standing beyond the half-open door. Cole noticed her only when she stepped inside. You could leave? She asked. Yes. And Earth ordered you to? Yes. Before she could answer, the fortress alarm erupted. Kauren rushed to the tactical display. Movement on the east approach. Multiple units. Cole was already moving. Positions. Nobody chases anything outside the perimeter. The eastern corridor came alive as soldiers took cover behind reinforced barriers. Through the narrow observation ports, car vehicles advanced beneath sweeping white searchlights. A warning blast shook dust from the ceiling, followed by another. The fortress lights flickered. "They are testing us," Cowran said. "Then let them learn the wrong lesson," Cole replied. He ordered the forward team back 50 yards and opened the outer security gate. Lasara stared at him. "You are opening the entrance." "Only the entrance they can see." Car scouts moved cautiously into the first access corridor. The humans withdrew again without contesting the ground. On Varric's tactical map, the fortress appeared to be folding almost immediately. Cole watched the enemy markers advance exactly where he wanted them. Close emergency shutter 3. A massive internal door dropped behind the scouts, separating them from the force outside. At the same moment, the corridor lights vanished and secondary barriers sealed the route forward. No graphic violence followed, only confusion, alarms, and the sudden realization that the car unit had nowhere useful to go. Mason looked at Cole. "That is mean. That is architecture." Then the entire mountain trembled. This impact was different. Harder. Deeper. The tactical display flashed, and one section of the eastern wall disappeared from the schematic. Varric had stopped testing doors. He was making his own. Cowran stared at the new opening. They breached the lower level. Cole keyed his radio as red contacts poured onto the map. "All teams, fallback plan." "Now." Lasara looked at him. "What happens if they reach this floor?" Cole checked the clock. 5 hours and 38 minutes remained. They do not. The breach changed everything. Varric had stopped playing by the fortress layout, and Cole knew the next 30 minutes would decide whether they still had 5 hours or 5 minutes. "Seal the civilian stairwell," he ordered. Cowran touched the controls. "That traps us on this side." "That is the idea." Cole studied the tactical display as car signals entered the lower maintenance level. Instead of spreading out, they moved in disciplined groups, checking intersections and refusing to follow the obvious corridors. Mason leaned over the display. "They learned fast." "Varric learned fast," Cole corrected. "His people are following instructions." He pointed toward the western passage. "Give them that route." Cowran looked confused. "That leads toward our backup generators." "Exactly." Lasara had learned enough about Cole to recognize the expression on his face. "You want him to believe we are protecting them." Cole nodded. "If I were Varric, I would think humans need power for sensors, doors, and communications. Take away the generators, take away our advantage." Mason smiled faintly. "Good thing you are not emotionally attached to electricity. I grew up in Montana. We had flashlights." The humans withdrew from 2 more corridors, leaving the western route suspiciously open. Varric took the invitation. Car units shifted toward the generator level, and Cole waited until most of them were committed before speaking into his radio. "Natalie, coolant." Deep below them, industrial valves opened. Cold vapor rolled through the maintenance system, dropping the temperature across the western level. Thermal sensors became unreliable. Automated doors began cycling according to a simple manual sequence Cowran had programmed. Routes that had been opened seconds earlier suddenly led nowhere. Car formations slowed, separated, and lost the clean coordination Varric had maintained outside. Cole did not celebrate. "Move the civilians down 1 level." Quietly, Lasara followed him. "Your plan worked." "Part of it. You do not sound pleased." "Because he gets a turn." As if Varric had heard him, every car signal stopped moving. The fortress became strangely quiet. No advance. No pressure against the doors. Nothing. Mason checked his rifle. "I hate it when the bad guys start thinking." Then the external cameras went white. A low vibration passed through the mountain. Cowran looked at his console. "They are targeting the structure." Cole's jaw tightened. Varric had understood the trap. Instead of sending more soldiers through human-controlled corridors, he was attacking the fortress from outside, section by section, forcing Cole to choose between surrendering ground and losing shelter. Another impact shook the floor. Ceiling panels dropped in an empty hallway. "Eastern support section compromised," Cowran reported. "We cannot keep taking that." "I know." Cole moved civilians away from the outer rooms, while Mason's team shifted deeper into the fortress. The defensive map was shrinking. One corridor vanished. Then another. Their carefully prepared positions were becoming useless faster than they could replace them. Varric's voice suddenly returned over the public address system. "Sergeant Mercer, you are competent. That is why I will offer you something I did not offer the Varans. Take your soldiers and leave. I will provide a corridor to your extraction point. Mason looked toward Cole. That almost sounded respectful. Cole keyed the transmitter. Almost. Varric continued. You cannot protect this fortress and preserve your unit. You know that. I know that. Do not confuse stubbornness with courage. Cole's eyes stayed on the tactical map. You finished. I am giving you a chance to save your people. So am I. Cole ended the transmission. For the first time, Lasara understood what made Varric dangerous. He was not underestimating the humans anymore. He was adapting to them. Then a warning flashed across Cowran's console. A structural section near the eastern stairwell had failed. Mason's team had been stationed there. Cole grabbed his radio. Mason, report. Static. Mason, nothing. Natalie was already reaching for her medical bag when a faint voice finally came through. Still here. Mason sounded strained, but conscious. Could use a hand, though. Cole started toward the stairwell. Natalie caught his arm. Cole, the next section is unstable. He looked at the map, then at the clock. 5 hours and 4 minutes remained. I know. He pulled free and headed downstairs. Lasara watched him disappear into the dark corridor, and for the first time she realized the humans were not calmly holding because they believed they could not lose. They were holding while knowing exactly how badly they could. The eastern stairwell looked like somebody had picked up the building and shaken it. Emergency lights blinked through a haze of dust, and somewhere below, Mason kept tapping his radio twice every few seconds so Cole could follow the sound. Keep doing that, Cole said. I was planning on starting a podcast, Mason answered weakly. Glad you found me. Natalie arrived behind Cole carrying a medical pack. Together, they found Mason pinned beneath a fallen support panel, conscious and irritated. 2 other soldiers were helping keep the corridor secure, while Cowran's emergency system warned that the section could shift again. Can you move your legs? Natalie asked. I can complain about them. That was not the question. Then probably. Cole wedged a maintenance bar beneath the panel. Natalie glanced at his hands. They were shaking. Cole. I know. No, you do not. Slow down. He stopped forcing the bar and took one breath. Then another. Lasara had followed as far as the stairwell entrance. She watched the human sergeant reset himself, embarrassed that anyone had noticed. That surprised her. Until now, she had mistaken his control for an absence of fear. It was not. He was simply managing it one decision at a time. With Cowran operating an emergency lift from above, they raised the panel enough to pull Mason free. Natalie immediately checked him. You are done fighting. I strongly disagree. Great. Disagree from medical. Another vibration rolled through the floor. Cole helped Mason upright. Lasara looked at his trembling hand. Are humans always afraid during battle? Cole gave her a tired look. The smart ones are. You do not appear afraid. That is because I have had practice. They started back upstairs. My first deployment, Cole continued. I was 19. Vehicle caught fire during an evacuation. I ran about 20 yards before I realized my friend was still inside. Lasara waited. What did you do? Ran back. Because you stopped being afraid? Cole shook his head. No. I was more afraid going back. He looked toward Mason, who was leaning heavily on Natalie, but still making his own way up. Fear does not make the decision for you. That is all. They reached the command room just as every console sounded at once. Cowran rushed toward the main display. Something is wrong with the evacuation carrier. The incoming vessel had appeared at the edge of the system, still several hours away, but a second group of signals had changed course toward it. Car interceptors. Lasara stepped closer. How did they find it? Cowran's face tightened. They should not have known its approach vector. Cole looked at the map and understood immediately. Varric had never needed to break the fortress quickly. He had needed to keep everyone inside long enough to identify what they were waiting for. The public address system clicked on. Varric's voice returned. Sergeant Mercer, I wondered why a man with an extraction route would choose to remain in a dying fortress. Now I understand. Cole said nothing. Your rescue vessel has been located. If it continues toward Varan, my interceptors will force it away. If it retreats, your civilians remain here with you. Either way, your 6-hour clock no longer matters. The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Lasara stared at the approaching car signals. He used us. Yeah, Cole said quietly. And I let him. Natalie looked at him. Cole. He turned away from the display, jaw tight. This was the part nobody put in stories. Sometimes the enemy saw what you were doing. Sometimes the careful plan failed because the other person was careful too. Cole walked to the window and looked down into the valley. Thousands of car troops, vehicles, command relays. Then his eyes stopped on something descending through the clouds far beyond the eastern ridge. A large car vessel was moving lower. Cowren, identify that ship. Cowren checked the sensor return. Command vessel. Varix. Cole looked back at the evacuation carrier, then at the car ship. His expression changed. Why would he bring his command ship down? Lasara answered first. Because he believes he has won. Cole stared at the map for another moment. Then he reached for his radio. All Terran teams, new plan. Stop trying to keep them out. Mason, halfway to medical, turned around. That sounds concerning. Cole watched Varric's command vessel descend another 1,000 feet. Good. It is supposed to. Cole drew the new plan on Cowren's tactical display with one finger. We give Varric what he thinks he wants. Cowren stared at the route Cole had marked through the fortress. You want us to abandon 3 defensive sectors? 4. That puts car troops within 200 feet of this room. That is close enough. Lasara stepped beside him. Close enough for what? Cole looked toward the window. Varric's command vessel continued descending through the clouds, protected by a screen of smaller ships. For him to believe he needs to come down here personally. Natalie had returned from medical without Mason. He is going to notice if we suddenly make this easy. So we do not make it easy. We make it look expensive. Cole assigned the remaining Terran teams to controlled withdrawals. They would hold briefly, give ground, then disappear through maintenance routes before the car could pin them down. No heroic last stands. No wasted ammunition. Just enough resistance to cell exhaustion. Lasara watched him issue the orders. And the civilians? Lowest level. Cowren stays with them. Cowren immediately objected. I am an officer. Exactly. They need one. And you need soldiers. I have soldiers. Cole turned to Lasara. You are going downstairs too. No. He paused. Princess. Varric wants me. If I disappear, he has no reason to come closer. Cole studied her for a moment. She was frightened. He could see it now because he finally understood how Varen showed fear. The faint luminous lines along her neck had dimmed almost completely. She was staying anyway. All right, he said. Stay behind me. The next hour became a strange performance. Terran positions collapsed one after another, carefully enough to look real. Emergency lights failed across entire sections. Radio traffic became shorter. The car advanced, but Varric remained cautious. He had learned too much to trust an easy victory. Then Cole gave him the final piece. Cut the primary transmitter. Cowren hesitated. That eliminates our long-range communication. I know. The fortress beacon vanished from the tactical network. Seconds later, Varric sent a transmission. Sergeant Mercer, your defenses are failing. Your rescue vessel cannot reach you. This ends when you decide it ends. Cole opened the channel. Everyone in the command room turned toward him. Come get her. Silence followed. Lasara looked sharply at Cole. Even Natalie raised an eyebrow. Then Varric answered. You are surrendering the princess? I said come get her. Cole closed the channel. Natalie exhaled. Friendly reminder that I hate plans where you explain nothing. You would hate it more if I explained this one. On the tactical display, Varric's command vessel changed course. It descended below the cloud layer and moved directly toward the fortress. Lasara understood part of it. You wanted his ship inside the valley. Yes. Why? Cole pulled a small device from a storage case. It was barely larger than his palm. Cowren recognized the Terran markings, but not its purpose. What is that? Targeting beacon. Cole set it on the table. Every drop pod carried one. Natalie slowly smiled. How many survived landing? 37. Lasara looked at the map. Where are they? Cole touched the display. Small blue points appeared across the valley, positioned along ridges, roads, and communication sites. During every withdrawal, every movement, every apparently desperate adjustment, Terran soldiers had been placing them. Cowren stared. You were marking the battlefield. We were trying to. Lasara pointed toward the orbital batteries. But your fleet still cannot reach us. The car electronic interference blocks accurate targeting. From orbit, yes. Cole watched Varric's vessel descend below 10,000 feet. That is why we needed something down here to connect the dots. A warning appeared. Car troops had reached the final access level. Varric's ship was almost directly above the valley. Cole checked the clock. Then, for the first time that night, he ordered every Terran weapon silent. The fortress fell still. Varric's forces stopped outside the final doors, waiting. Above them, the command vessel descended another 500 feet. Cole activated the device in his hand. 37 blue points on the map turned green. Far above Varen, something answered. The answer from orbit arrived as a single green pulse on Cole's wrist display. Link established. For the first time all night, he let out the breath he had been holding. Natalie caught it. Please tell me that means what I think it means. Depends what you think it means. That somebody upstairs finally noticed us. Cole looked toward the ceiling. They noticed. Across the valley, 37 targeting beacons began feeding position data through the car interference. They were not weapons. They did not need to be. Each one gave the Terran ships above Varen something they had been missing for hours, a clean reference point. Cowran watched new symbols populate the tactical display. Your fleet can see the ground. Enough of it. Lysara looked toward the approaching car command vessel. Then destroy Varric's ship. Not with him over the fortress. She turned to Cole. You brought him here deliberately. I brought his command network here. Cole keyed his radio. Terran control, Mercer. Confirm precision package only. Civilian structure, danger close. A calm voice answered through static. Confirmed. Markers authenticated. Stand by. Lysara expected some grand countdown. Cole simply checked his watch. 3 seconds later, the sky changed. Brilliant lines appeared beyond the valley, precise and distant. One car orbital battery disappeared from Cowran's network. Then another. Communication relays went dark. Radar stations vanished from the tactical picture one at a time. There were no strikes against troop concentrations near the fortress. Earth was not trying to erase an army. It was taking away the army's eyes, ears, and ability to control the air. Varric understood almost immediately. His command vessel climbed. He is retreating, Cowran said. No, Cole replied. He is trying to get his antenna above the interference. The car commander opened a channel. His controlled voice was gone. Mercer, terminate your targeting network. Cole answered, no. My forces still surround you. I know. Your soldiers are outnumbered more than 100 to 1. Also know that. Varric paused. Then what exactly do you believe has changed? Cole looked at the tactical display. The sky. Varric's vessel suddenly lost its escort as the smaller craft broke away, unable to coordinate under the collapsing command network. Then the fortress radar filled with new contacts. Lysara stepped closer. More strikes. Cole shook his head. No. The first Terran transport entered the atmosphere through the corridor where the car batteries had been disabled. Then came another. And another. They descended in organized waves, each protected by fighters now free to operate below the orbital defense line. Cowran stared as the count climbed past 20. How many soldiers? Enough. Natalie gave Cole a sideways look. You have been waiting all night to say that, have you not? Maybe a little. Outside the fortress, car formations began pulling away from exposed positions. Their advantage had depended on controlling the valley from above. That advantage was gone. Human transports crossed the clouds, engines turning the darkness white as they approached landing zones marked hours earlier by the first 43 soldiers. Lysara finally understood. Cole's unit had never been expected to defeat Varric's army. They had been sent to keep one patch of ground alive long enough to turn it into a doorway. The first transport settled onto the eastern ridge. Then the second. Hundreds of Terran soldiers moved out beneath the landing lights, securing roads and opening a protected route toward the fortress. Varric's voice returned, quieter now. You sacrificed your original extraction opportunity for this. Cole looked at the civilians gathering behind Cowran, watching the human transports through the windows. Was not much of an extraction if we left everybody behind. A new signal appeared on the display. The civilian carrier had changed course again. With the car interceptors forced away and the orbital batteries offline, it was coming straight toward Varen. Lysara stared at the arrival estimate. 47 minutes. For hours, survival had been measured in shrinking corridors and failing walls. Now there was a road out. But Cole was watching one red symbol that had not moved. Varric's command vessel had stopped climbing. It was descending again, directly toward the fortress. Natalie noticed it too. He is coming back. Cole picked up his helmet. Yeah. Why? Lysara answered before he could. Because if he leaves without me, his war is over. Cole secured the helmet and headed for the final access level. Then let us make sure he gets the message. Varric's command vessel settled beyond the fortress perimeter just as the first Terran companies secured the eastern ridge. He had finally run out of advantages, but not pride. His remaining forces still held the lower road, and for several tense minutes nobody moved. Then Varric opened a direct channel. Princess Lysara, I request terms. Lysara looked at Cole. 3 hours ago, he demanded my surrender. 3 hours is a long time. What would a human do? Cole thought about it. Make sure the civilians get on the carrier before discussing anybody's pride. So that was what they did. No victory speech. No celebration. The fortress doors opened, and Terran soldiers formed a protected corridor toward the landing field. Families emerged carrying bags, blankets, and whatever pieces of home they had managed to save. Sela came through holding her mother's hand. She spotted Lysara and smiled. You were right. They came. Lysara swallowed hard. Yes. She did not tell the child how uncertain that promise had been. Nearby, Natalie supervised the wounded on a transports while Mason sat on a cargo case with one leg supported by a brace. You look terrible, Cole told him. Doctor says I am charming. Natalie walked past. Doctor said you are annoying. Medical terminology. Cole almost laughed. Almost. Then Varric arrived under guard. Without his command platform and army surrounding him, he looked smaller somehow, though he still stood nearly 8 feet tall. His eyes settled on Cole. You had permission to leave. Cole said nothing. I intercepted your command traffic, Varric continued. Earth ordered you to preserve your unit and extract the princess. You disobeyed. Looks that way. For civilians who were not even human. Cole glanced toward the carrier. The last families were boarding. They were here. Varric seemed genuinely confused. That is your explanation? It is enough for me. Lysara stepped forward. Commander Varric, your remaining forces will withdraw from Terran. Your command vessel will remain grounded until negotiations are complete. If your troops comply, they will be permitted to leave. Varric looked toward the human battalion occupying the ridge and understood there was nothing left to bargain with. He lowered his head. Not dramatically, just enough. Accepted. 40 minutes later, the evacuation carrier lifted from Terran. Lysara stood beside Cole near a window as the ruined fortress shrank beneath them. Human soldiers were still moving across the landing field below, collecting equipment and helping Terran crews account for everyone. Were you certain they would come? Lysara asked. Cole knew exactly who she meant. No. She turned toward him. You held that fortress without knowing whether reinforcements would arrive. We knew they were trying. That is not the same thing. No, ma'am. Then why stay? Cole looked through the window for a long moment. Because we said we would. It was such a small answer that Lysara almost missed what was inside it. She had grown up in palaces where power was measured in fleets, territories, titles, and the number of people required to obey an order. Terran had taught her another measurement. 43 strangers had fallen into a valley they could have escaped. They had been frightened. They had made mistakes. They had doubted themselves. They had never known for certain that help was coming. And still, when leaving became possible, they had looked at 183 people who were not their citizens, not their families, not even their species, and decided that possible was not the same as acceptable. Years later, Lysara would forget the exact number of ships that arrived that morning. She would forget the military reports, the diplomatic arguments, even some of the names. But she never forgot Sela asking whether rescue was coming, or the ordinary human soldier who stayed when nobody could promise him the same. Because strength, she eventually learned, was not always the power to defeat an enemy. Sometimes it was simply having every reason to walk away and choosing not to.